When I was collecting 8-bit consoles after I got my Nintendo and my Master System, I just moved on to the 16-bit generation, forgetting all about another 8-bit console. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I do an Atari 7800 showcase.
Second Opinion Games.
When I got my Atari 7800, what I was expecting was just upgraded versions of the 2600 games. So I put in Asteroids here, and that's pretty much exactly what I got. On the 2600, the Asteroids would flicker all over the place, and there could only be so many on screen before there was just jumbly crap going on the screen. However, here, the Asteroids tend to be all over the place, and the game runs smooth and fine. There doesn't seem to be any real music in the background, except for maybe when the UFOs jump in, and even they have to worry about being blown up by the Asteroids themselves, because, yeah, they're gonna blow up eventually. And you just fly around. You also have your hyperspace, so you could go into, just disappear off the map and then pop in someplace else. You can't control this, but the game is pretty good about not putting you in direct path with an asteroid. However, if you clear out the entire screen and you go in the hyperspace, there's a chance that you're just gonna blow up randomly. So don't do that if you already beat the level, not that you really would. And I like the way the asteroids have their own rotation, and the fact that they actually look like spheres, like small planets I'm blowing up, and the game is pretty darn good as far as Atari 2600 reboot upgrade goes. So how about a racing game? They tend to show off new hardware well. Well, Fatal Run here is a racing game where you drive across the country and you blow up every freaking car along the way. Most of the game is on a straightaway, which you think then would be rather boring. But you have your machine guns, you have your oil slicks that can fall behind you. Hey, this is kind of like a really lame version of Spy Hunter. But when you make it into town after a few minutes of driving, you could upgrade your car. You could work on some repairs to your bumpers, or more bullets for your machine guns. But don't forget to stock up on lots of fuel, because eventually you'll run out of gas and then it's game over. It's one of those games where you have just one life to complete it all, and you could probably do so if you have good resource management. So don't spend all your cash in one place if you don't have to, and rather than just trying to outrun all the cars on the road, make sure you take the time to blow them all up and kill them and make orphans of their children. Yeah, that's another thing. When you make it in the town, you can see all these happy people suddenly turn into tombstones, and I think that's the people that you murdered along the way. And there's even cheerleaders here. I don't want to be the guy that kills cheerleaders! Well, I mean, not in video games at least. Well, that was an average game, but how about a little bit better one? Jumping over to motorcycles, we have Moto Psycho, where you play a motorcyclist on one of 4 different maps, and you have a high and low gear, again, kind of like Spy Hunter, only this time you're not shooting everything in sight. Matter of fact, you're quite vulnerable. Hitting anything, even a traffic cone, could cause your motorcycle to just explode. If you touch another person on the road, you will explode. Basically, you're gonna explode a lot, and rather often. You're also fighting against the clock here. As time ticks down, you're going to get pretty nervous about making it to that next checkpoint. Basically, as long as on the straightaways you're in high gear, and when you hit the curves you drop it into low, you'll be just fine. And also, there's a jump button. And one of the really cool things about this game is the winding roads and the fact that there are actually hills here. So when you hit that jump button, when you're at the hill coming up, you could fly right off the screen. It's really cool and a lot of fun. This is probably the best racing game on the system, and it's definitely one you should have in your collection. But how about we move on to sports games like Basket Brawl, a 2-on-2 basketball game with lots of wacky characters with their own attributes that you don't know what their attributes are until you actually choose them in the game. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of trial and error here. If you pick a guy that's way slow, well, that's okay, just use him as a brawler. Your guy on your team will score all the points while you just punch everyone in the face, giving him the ball pretty darn quick. Watch out for some of the guys kids in the audience, though, because they throw knives at you while you're trying to play basketball. Why you can't deck that guy, I have no idea. And it's also one of those games that's over after only losing one match of basketball, just like reality. When I lose, I'm done for the rest of the day, and you're never getting me back out on that court. But as long as you use that great strategy of punching your other team in the face as often as you possibly can, well, then you're gonna fly through this game in no time. Again, it's a sub-average experience. But let's move on to puzzle games, like the classic Clax. It's a tile stacking game where tiles come down a conveyor belt and you have to not let them fall to the ground. Instead, you stack them up on your stacker thing and then flip them over and try to make lines of 3. Either 3 tall, 3 across, or even in a diagonal. Sometimes you're going to have to do one in order to clear the level, and making diagonals are really tough. What's also tough is the fact that the Atari 7800 only had a limited color palette, so sometimes the yellows and the golds look a little too close to one another, and also the music here is pretty much non-existent, and what sound effects are here pretty much hurt your ears. And if you add in the fact that Clax itself just isn't a very fun or addictive puzzle game, you have yourself just something that you don't want to play at all. But pretty much everyone had this game because it was Clax, and it's like they gave them away or something. How about spaceship shooters, though? They have to be pretty good on this system. Well, there wasn't very many of them. But what I do have here is Planet Smashers. And when you jump into it, it feels like an Atari 2600 game yet again. However, looks can be deceiving, because even though it might sound like total garbage, this is a rather fun game. See, you could pick up power-ups like pretty much every other shooter imaginable, but that's not what really makes it fun. What makes it fun is the warp system. Yes, you have to actually work your way to the end of the level by picking up different colors down into the warp section. If you don't pick them up in the right order, it sort of lets you know where that one might fall, and then you'll fight a boss battle. If you die on the boss, it still seems like you warp to the next level, so you still kind of have to win. And also, Earth is on the line here. You see down at the bottom where it says Earth Shield? Yeah, eventually Earth is going to run out of shield and it's going to blow up the whole planet. And then where will you go for cheeseburgers? So you gotta save the planet. This is a rather addictive shoot 'em up, which I didn't think I would like because of how generic and average it is, but it really grew on me. Like a lot. I love this game. Moving on to the platformers, we have Scrapyard Dog, playing as one of the ugliest characters I've ever played in a game. You have to throw rocks at mice or step on them for money, and also make it to the end of the level. Now, I thought the very first level was just repeating itself a whole bunch of times, but eventually I did clear it and make it to the end. And then I started up another very generic looking level. One of the bad parts about this game is that it's a one-hit kill, and then you go back. And if you happen to die completely, well, then you go back and start the game at the very first level of the first world that you're on. So you're probably going to give up of boredom before you even make it too far in this game. There's also an item shop that you can make it to, so you're going to actually want to stomp on everyone's head to collect the money. But Mario, this is not. As a matter of fact, it's a game you should probably just stay away from. But maybe I just picked the wrong platformer. How about Tower Toppler? Now, I recently played this game on the Commodore 64, on my Wii through the Virtual Console anyway, and I thought, well, it probably was better on the Atari 7800. After all, it had 2 buttons, and when I put this in, it only uses the 1 button still, and for some reason, the controls seem actually far worse than the Commodore 64. Also, the graphics are a lot worse, and the limited color scheme of the 7800 really shows here, because the whole rotation effect and seeing where the platforms are to jump on just is hard to do. And it's also just a lot more difficult to play in general than the Commodore 64 version, which was already insanely difficult. And if you add in the fact that the controls are total garbage and the graphics then also don't work at all, this is a game, again, that you should stay away from. But how about some big time exclusives? And man, does this system ever have a doozy of one. Check out Ninja Golf. Yes, that's right, playing as a ninja on a golf course, trying to get 9 holes of golf in, and it's not gonna be easy because there's groundhogs that throw stuff at you, and ninjas that just want you dead because you are not allowed to finish that golf course. If you get the ball on the green, well then you're gonna have to fight a dragon in order to sink it, and then the level will start all over with a whole different course. If you happen to be in a sand trap, it'll have a sand theme. If you're running through the water, you'll be attacked by sharks as you run under the water. This ninja is freaking magical. Now there are some extra lives you can pick up, some invincibility, or maybe even some more ninja stars. This is actually a pretty darn fun game, but it's kind of rare and expensive because it happens to be probably the best exclusive game on this console. It's one that I personally love very much, but I can never finish it. Even if I get up to the 8th freaking hole, it eventually becomes so darn difficult. Ninjas just fly at you everywhere and you just want to finish it so you can see what happens, but sadly you never do. Ninja Golf is a great golfing ninja experience. Probably the best ninja golf game out there. But this wasn't my only reason to have an Atari 7800. No, I wanted to play a game that I used to play on the Apple IIe all the time, and it was only released for home release on this console, and I am talking about Karotika. I absolutely love that game on the Apple IIe, but here on the Atari 7800, I thought they broke the controls. Seriously, I thought my controller was broken when I first started playing it because it was just a mess. Now you think the 2 buttons on the controller would be like the punch and the kick, but no. One button is to just take a stance or to get in running position, which makes no sense on the Atari 7800 version. In the computer, it actually had a reason, but that's not here at all. Also, the graphics are so much worse. The colors are unbelievably awful. And the other button is to, when you hold it down, you like edge yourself forward a little bit. So how do you punch and kick? Well, forward on the controller does a kick, and backwards on the controller does the punch. And because you can't just walk up to someone with forward and backward like a normal controller would work, well, this becomes almost impossible to land a kick or a punch, making this probably the worst game for the entire system, even though it's the one that I wanted to play the most. So that's pretty frustrating. So this was a pretty good showcase showing you what the Atari 7800 had to offer. If you're into those old school arcade games like Asteroids or Donkey Kong, this is a fairly decent game, but you could probably find better versions someplace else. If you're into racing games, Moto Psycho is freaking awesome. If you're into basketball, well then you should probably be playing NBA Jam someplace else. And if you want platformers, well, pretty much just take a hike. However, if you're in for a good game of Ninja Golf, well then this is the console for you. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and I can tell you that I'm pretty much done collecting games for the Atari 7800. I don't really feel like I have to go for a complete set on this system, judging by the games that I've had so far. And I have quite a bit more than I let on in this video, because I really like games like Joust and Dig Dug and stuff like that. And that's what the system does best, but it doesn't do it better than some of the other consoles that are out today. So hopefully you guys can tell me about a game that I really missed out on this system that will make it worth owning for everyone. So if you have that knowledge, leave me a comment in the comment box down below. And until later, I will see you again, guys.